They did change the angle a bit. All right, good afternoon. It's early. It's only ish. All right, just a couple of programming notes. Today at 3 p.m. in the ECOSOC chamber, the UN Peacebuilding Commission will hold its annual session under Secretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, Rosemary DiCarlo, will brief on behalf of the Secretary General. And if you happen to be in the delegates area, a peacebuilding exhibit is being displayed along the curved wall in the delegates area. The exhibit will be up till the 27th. Tomorrow at 10:15 a.m., there will be a press conference here by Virginia Gamba, the Secretary General's Special Representative on Children in Armed Conflict, on the annual report on children in armed conflict. In the Security Council this morning, the Secretary General delivered remarks on the Council's meeting on poverty, underdevelopment, and conflict, that sustainable peace requires sustainable development. The flames of conflict are all too often lit and fed by persistent poverty and growing inequalities, he said, adding that it's no coincidence that 9 of the 10 countries with the lowest human development index are currently in a state of conflict. Mr. Guterres said that 40% of the 700 million people living in extreme poverty live in conflict-affected or fragile settings, and that the situation is only getting worse. 10 years after the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals, he said 2/3 of the targets are lagging, and the world is falling short by over $4 trillion United States dollars annually in the resources developing countries need to deliver on the promises of the 2030 Agenda. The Secretary General said that the 4th Conference on Financing for Development, starting next week, will be an important moment for the world to fix and strengthen this essential engine. And Kanya Wignaraja, Assistant Secretary General for in UNDP, also briefed council members. She noted that climate change has been a crisis multiplier, forcing people to flee their homes around the world, from Nigeria to Myanmar and beyond. Focusing now on the situation in Gaza, the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says that widespread bombardment, shelling, and shooting continues, resulting in reports of scores of fatalities, even more injuries, including among those seeking aid, and we're seeing that today. Yesterday, a team from the Nasser Medical Complex, a UN team visited the Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis, which, as you know, and we've been telling you, is struggling to stay operational under relentless pressure and severe shortages of just about every item. Our colleagues from WHO and OCHA were there following the arrival of hundreds of casualties, including many who were reportedly attacked while waiting for food. WHO's Director General, Dr. Tedros, said the hospital was hosting twice as many patients as it can handle. Dr. Tedros added that the hospital cannot expand its capacity because it lacks ventilators, it lacks monitors, it lacks beds, as well as staff to operate all of the hospital. Yesterday, WHO was able to deliver minimum amount of fuel to the hospital to power up its backup generators. OCHA reminds us that no fuel has entered the Gaza Strip for 110 days. Yesterday, we mentioned an attempt by our colleagues on the ground to retrieve fuel from the Al-Tahrir station in Rafah. We can now confirm that the operation was indeed successful. About 280,000 liters of fuel were retrieved and transferred to a more accessible location in the Deir al-Balah area. OCHA also tells us that while this buys a bit of time, it is far from enough. To keep life-saving operations going, fuel purchased outside must be allowed to enter Gaza. Unless this happens very soon, hospitals, ambulances, water desalination plants, phone networks, and other critical services will grind to a halt. Meanwhile, OCHA also tells us that efforts to repair a fiber optic cable that was damaged are being hindered, causing a major telecommunications outage for the 3rd day in a row. Today, Israeli authorities initially approved, but then impeded the movement of a team that was set to identify where this fiber optic line had been cut. As you'll recall, this cut is impacting central and southern Gaza, and until the issue is resolved, people are cut off from life-saving information about where to find help. Our own humanitarian teams are unable to properly coordinate and move about safely in Gaza, which, as you know, is a rather dangerous area. Meanwhile, you will recall that no shelter materials have entered Gaza since March 1st, before the Israeli authorities imposed a full blockade on aid and any other supplies for nearly 80 days. While some commodities have subsequently been allowed in small quantities, tents, timber, tarpaulins, and any other shelter items remain prohibited. Almost everyone in Gaza has been displaced multiple times during this war, and shelter conditions are quickly deteriorating even further. Makeshift accommodations are concentrated in bombed-out schools, public lots, and urban rubble, often far exceeding the site capacity, and obviously without any basic infrastructure. We, along with our partners, have some 980,000 shelter items, including 50,000 tents, ready for prioritization and dispatch as soon as access is granted. And turning to Haiti, our humanitarian country team in the country is sounding the alarm on the need for enhanced preparedness ahead of the Atlantic hurricane season. Amid severe funding shortfalls, contingency stocks are at their lowest level ever. Despite forecasts indicating an above-average season, Haiti begins this hurricane season with no pre-positioned food supplies and no available funding to launch a rapid response. This comes as 5.7 million people in the country face severe food insecurity, and more than 230,000 displaced human beings are living in makeshift shelters. And those are, as we've been telling you, highly exposed to extreme weather. Our colleagues also remind us that Haiti is one of the only 5 countries worldwide with people in famine-like conditions. With support from national and international partners, our humanitarian partners have pre-positioned some limited stocks of hygiene kits, tarpaulins, trauma supplies, and nutrition support, and plan to deliver anticipatory cash transfers to vulnerable households. However, additional funding for relief efforts are urgently needed. Haiti's humanitarian response plan remains only 8% funded, with just $75 million received of the $908 million required for this year. Meanwhile, OCHA has been leading missions with UN agencies and other partners to see how aid operations can be resumed in areas of high need following the May 26th suspension of operations due to insecurity. Missions have been carried out in a number of areas in the metropolitan Port-au-Prince zone, with further deployments planned along the First National Road, which connects the capital to the north of the country. These efforts aim to secure safety guarantees and enable the safe resumption of humanitarian operations in those zones. Turning to the situation in South Sudan, which is not any better, I can tell you that we are deeply concerned about an increase in acute malnutrition and cholera cases in the country. Our humanitarian colleagues are telling us that between July 2024 and June of this year, the number of children under the age of 5 needing urgent treatment for acute malnutrition climbed to 10%. That is from 2.1 million children to 2.3 million children suffering acute malnutrition. This is happening against the backdrop of the world's worst cholera outbreak this year. Nearly 74,000 cases and at least 1,362 deaths were reported across 9 states as of June 16th. Despite access constraints, we and our humanitarian partners have scaled up the response, and as of today, approximately 6.9 million doses of oral cholera vaccines have been administered. The 2025 Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan for South Sudan is only 20% funded, with $338 United States dollars in the bank out of $1.7 billion needed. This dire situation is yet another stark reminder that we need funding urgently to expand food assistance, expand nutrition, and expand health services to those who need it the most. And speaking of humanitarian work, just a quick update for you on the Humanitarian Reset, which, as you'll recall, our good friend Tom Fletcher, the head of the Humanitarian Affairs Department, spoke to you about from this room about 3 months ago, following a meeting this week of the Interagency Standing Committee, which brings together major UN humanitarian partners and international NGOs. Mr. Fletcher said that we are in a doom loop with a transactional, inward-looking and less generous era, making it tough time to be a humanitarian. Meanwhile, political polarization, the climate crisis, and conflict are on the rise, all driving humanitarian needs even higher. He stressed that the Humanitarian Reset, a bold global agenda to regroup and reform the aid system, is in its next phase, which includes the hyper-prioritization of our appeals to support humanitarian work, which I think Fahan told you about a few days ago. We will save many lives as we can, he said, with the resources we have, stressing that we need just 1% of what the world spent on defense last year to reach millions of people in direct need around the world. More information on the interweb. Tomorrow is World Refugee Day, and noting how too many individuals fleeing conflict or persecution feel compelled to embark on dangerous journeys in many parts of the world. We are joining the UN Refugee Agency and the International Organization for Migration, and remembering that one shipwreck that took place just 2 years ago stands as stark memorial and illustration of the human cost of inaction on issues regarding refugees and migrants. Just about 2 years ago, one of the deadliest shipwrecks in the Mediterranean in recent memory claimed the lives of some 650 refugees and migrants when a fishing trawler capsized off the coast of Pylos in Greece. Till this day, hundreds of people remain missing, and their families are still awaiting answers. UNHCR and IOM stress that this tragedy and the profound pain it left behind must not be forgotten. The UN agencies point out that while arrivals in Europe have declined since 2024, the numbers of lives lost at sea remain high. At least 3,500 people were reported dead or missing on maritime routes to Spain, Italy, Malta, Greece, and Cyprus last year. The real toll is likely to be much higher. I want to flag a report from our friends at the UN Trade and Development, otherwise known as UNCTAD. They released a report showing that global foreign direct investment fell by 11%, marking the second consecutive year of decline and confirming a deepening slowdown in productive capital flows. The World Investment Report 2025 comes ahead of the 4th International Conference on Financing for Development in Sevilla, where global leaders will address the widening gap between capital flows and development needs. UN Trade and Development notes that the findings underscore the urgency of reshaping investment and finance systems to support inclusive and sustainable development. More on the web if you're interested. Today is the International Day of Elimination of Sexual Violence in Conflict. In his message, the Secretary General said sexual violence is a grotesque tactic of war used to brutalize, used to torture, and used to repress, and it's scarring bodies, it's scarring minds, and entire communities. The focus this year is the deep and lasting intergenerational wounds of conflict-related sexual violence. To break the cycle, the Secretary General said we must confront the horrors of the past, support the survivors of today, and protect future generations from the same fate. There was an event this morning to mark the day, co-organized by our colleagues in the Office of Special Representative of Sexual Violence in Conflict and the Special Representative of Children in Armed Conflict. And also want to flag that our colleagues at the UN Development Coordination Office tells us that today Rana Taha of Jordan took up her new assignment as the UN resident coordinator in Tunisia with the host government's approval. She brings over 20 years of experience working for UN agencies, funds and programs, and UN peacekeeping and special political missions. Before that, she served as team leader and senior peace and development advisor for the UN in Kenya, and we congratulate her. And just, sorry, I should mention this with a note on refugees, but in honor of World Refugee Day, UNHCR is hosting a showcase of refugee-made products in the General Assembly lobby to spotlight the contributions of refugees make when they are included and given an opportunity to self-reliance. UNHCR's Made 51 initiative connects refugees to the global marketplace, enabling them to earn income, preserve cultural heritage, share their skills around the world. They're also giving out limited number of bracelets handmade by refugee women in South Sudan and Kenya. I've got one, but you can go buy stuff. My birthday's coming up, and it's never too late to start Christmas shopping. Speaking of Christmas shopping, Edie.
Thank you, Steph. Does the Secretary General have any comment on tomorrow's meeting in Geneva between the foreign ministers of the UK, France, and Germany, and Iran's foreign minister? And will the UN be monitoring or participating?
We will not be participating. We'll obviously be following it. I mean, as we said yesterday, for the Secretary General, for us, it remains clear that diplomacy is the only and best way forward. Let's see what comes out of this meeting, but the fact that there is a dialogue between Iran and those three European Union countries is a positive in itself, but obviously we'll have to see what the outcome is. Deji.
A follow-up. Yesterday, obviously, multiple reports suggest that the U.S. President Trump has already green-lighted the plan to strike Iran, but has not yet made the final decision. In such a circumstances, who has the Secretary General been contacted with, and is there like a possibility that he could talk to the U.S. interlocutors with him?
Well, we've been in touch with the U.S. mission here for the last few days and passed on the message privately that we have said publicly. I think as we were very clear yesterday, we worry about any additional internationalization of the conflict.
Did they listen? Did they listen?
Well, I think we will leave it to journalists to analyze the situation.
Okay, totally different topic about the UN aid initiative. We know that last week happened to be the week those entities they are submitting their plans. So is cutting staffs, 20% inevitable? Have you got all the plans already?
It is. This process is ongoing. It is across the board in the Secretariat, and including in the Secretary General's own office. I think his own office is not exempt from it. I spoke to Guy Ryder yesterday, and we hope to have him and other senior colleagues come and brief you in person.
In the spokesperson's office, also included
I think
in the job cut?
there is no. It is the need to reduce is across the board, and no office is exempt. Okay. Abdel Hamid.
Thank you. Another 22 Palestinians were killed while waiting for food. And again, I didn't hear that number coming in the briefing. I will keep asking about numbers. Palestinians are not only just scores or number of Palestinians were killed.
I'm not debating that with you. I mean, in the note that I just read, we talked about the fact that people continue to be wounded and continue to be killed while doing what is the most basic human need, trying to get food, trying to get the most basic supplies. No human being should be killed trying to feed themselves or trying to feed their family.
In Israel, the U.S. ambassador in Israel, Mike Huckabee, he suggested to President Trump to bomb Iran with a nuclear bomb. Any comment?
I haven't seen those particular comments, but I have seen a lot of unhelpful rhetoric around this conflict, including around use of nuclear weapons. And I think the Secretary General has spoken out a lot in the last
Do you
year
see that-
about the issue of dangerous rhetoric around around nuclear weapons. As we were very clear yesterday, we do not want to see a further internationalization of this conflict. We want the military action to stop, and we want to return to diplomacy.
But does the Secretary General see there is a rise of fascism in the world of today?
I think the Secretary General has spoken about the rise of extremism and xenophobia for quite some time. In fact, since the beginning of his tenure. Stéphane, then Mr. Bays, and then we'll go that way.
Thank you, Stéphane. What does the Secretary General expect from Berlin for their conference tomorrow on Libya? There is a conference tomorrow on Libya.
I think anything that would advance the cohesiveness of the Libyan political leadership and help move the political process forward would be welcome. Mr. Bays.
We've seen people fleeing Tehran. We've had lots of reports of people who are thinking of leaving Tehran. What is the UN monitoring population flows in and out of Iran? Are you seeing large numbers of people? And what are you preparing? I mean, particularly, of the country, of the neighbouring countries. I mean, the UN has a large footprint in Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq. Are you making preparations?
I mean, there are contingency plans being updated all the time. We're obviously concerned beyond the military action we're seeing on the regional impact that this conflict would have. It can have, and including on mass movements of people into countries that some of them are better equipped than others in terms of receiving a large number of people.
And do you have any figures of people?
I do not.
I mean, for example, Afghans returning to Afghanistan.
I don't. We can try to get some of those.
Okay, and one final one from me. What's up with the escalators?
Well, I was hoping you would we were waiting for you with your toolkit. We've been waiting for you to start repairing them, James.
But honestly, I mean, they're old escalators. They're an iconic part of this building. But you should have them. They go wrong a lot. You should have all the spare parts ready. What are you waiting for?
Just a quick follow-up.
I will not entertain a follow-up on an escalator question. No, I'll come back to you. Volodymyr, please take me someplace else.
Thank you, Stéphane. According to a report by Japan's NHK, North Korea, a military ally of Russia, may deploy up to 20,000 workers to a drone factory in Yelabuga, Russia, to help boost Russian drone production. The goal appears to be to train North Koreans in manufacturing and operating drones. What would you say?
We don't have any independent verification of that report, but I think, whether it's the conflict you're speaking about or any other, further internationalizing any conflict, I think takes us away from the end of that conflict. Yep.
Thanks so much, Steph. On tomorrow's meeting on Iran at the Security Council, who will brief the Council?
I expect the Secretary General to give opening remarks, and Rosemary DiCarlo will likely also brief. Evelyn, and then Yvonne.
Thank you. I'm not sure if I missed something along the months on South Sudan. When you mentioned it with Kohler and so forth, has the United States put more migrants there?
I don't think one is linked to the other. I don't.
No,
I don't know. That I can't answer. I don't know.
Right, and also it's Juneteenth here, which stands for freedom, the symbol for freedom, even if not always the reality.
Yvonne.
Thank you. It's just about the escalators. No, I'm joking.
The Irish gift of humor.
So my question is, does the Secretary General look at the events going on in the Middle East and Israel's bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities and think that this could, do actions like this encourage countries, in his view, to acquire their own nuclear deterrent?
I think it's a very valid question. What we want to see is a reinforcement of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, not a weakening of it. We want to see fewer nuclear weapons, but what we want to see in any conflict is the full respect for international law, the full respect from the Charter, and we're seeing that being gnawed at by so many countries around the world. Deji, please.
Not escalator. A follow-up of James' first question. Did UN itself have any contingency plans in both Israel and Iran to evacuate your people?
Yes, and
what's the status
we're
now?
dealing with that. We're ensuring that our staff is safe.
The process started, or
It's ongoing. Stefano and then Edie.
Thank you, Stéphane. President Trump repeated that he doesn't know yet if he's going to attack Iran or not. He's going to take a decision and can go either way. If President Trump called today the Secretary General Guterres, and ask him if, an advice, what would be? What
do you think the Secretary General's advice would be if two options were presented to him?
Can we know publicly?
I think that answer is pretty obvious. I mean, the Secretary...
how he will convince him, because he's still
I'm not going
convinced.
into hypotheticals, Stefano, but I think from what I said today, what I've said yesterday, the message from the Secretary General is clear. Stop the military action. Too many people have been killed. Return to diplomacy and avoid at any cost the further internationalization of this conflict.
Did he try to call him? I mean, the vice versa means the Secretary General. Did he try
I think
to call
there's been no update
President
on,
Trump?
There's been no update on that. Ms. Lederer.
Thank you, Steph. On fixing the fiber optic cable.
Sorry. Thank you.
What?
Yes.
Changing the subject dramatically.
Yes, thank you.
What reason did the Israelis give the UN for not for first approving and then disapproving?
I'm not sure we're given any detailed reason, but they control the conflict theater, and they are not giving us the approvals. And I can't stress how urgently we need communications to make sure that we can operate in the safest possible environment, in an environment where that is primarily not safe. Okay, on that note, no questions on the interweb, so I shall leave you with great sadness.